Listen, are you grinding lead code the entire day? Do you hope that Google will respect the fact that you solved 500 lead code problems? Don't let fear and doubt cloud your vision. It's not that we have a short time to live. More, it's the fact that we waste our time. Let me help you understand what these big tech companies actually want from you. I was having lunch one day. It was a particularly heavy meal. I remember that. I remember feeling very groggy after eating that. It was probably rice and chickens. Anyways, I went to my room. I went to lie down. Right? And I also had my laptop with me and I opened it up. I wanted to watch a new Netflix show. So before doing that, I realized I had a new email. And this was the email I used just for interviews, like for applying for jobs. So I saw a little sliver, right? You know, that subject line, hello from Google. And then it hit me. I fucking applied for Google 3 weeks ago. I had totally forgotten. So with all excitement, I opened that shit up and I read it. Hello, this is recruiter name. I would like to schedule a call with your potential future at Google. I was like, fuck. I got up, I fucking ran around the entire house screaming, ah! This was the first time I ever fucking got an interview at Big Tech. I was so happy. I went to my brother, he screamed as well. He was like, yeah, let's go, because for the last 3 weeks, he and I wanted just one thing. Interviews at big tech companies. This was our entire focus. The game changed completely from that moment on. This was about January 2022. You see, I applied for these jobs not only because obviously I was going to get paid a shit ton of money, but deep down I knew that getting a job at Google would increase my status and therefore make me more attractive to girls. Genuinely, I'll be honest. So I decided to pack up my bags, head to Holland where I could go on monk mode for months to prepare for this interview. Obviously, I had the first phone call, everything went fine, and the recruiter invited me to do my first programming exam, like my first technical interview. So I went all the way back to Holland. I literally sacrificed everything I had except for my part-time job. I stopped studying for exams, I stopped hanging out with friends, I stopped going to parties, I stopped talking to girls, literally gave up everything. And also, there was this website called Pramp, I don't know if you know it, but basically, it was a mock interview. You see, these technical interviews, if you don't know, are basically an hour-long interview where you are presented a problem, a prompt, and you are supposed to then use your algorithm and data structure skills to fix that problem and optimize that problem. You're gonna basically solve it, right? This was a platform where you could block out 2 hours of your time, 1 hour for you and 1 hour for a stranger on the internet, where you would take turns becoming the interviewer and interviewee. I was so obsessed about getting this Google job that I literally solved all of the problems on this platform. Keep in mind, there were about 50 questions. So I literally spent 100 hours just interviewing, obsessing about the way I behaved on an interview. I mastered that art of interviewing. Everybody towards the end of my Pramp career gave me 5-star reviews. I was ready. Let's not forget, I also bought all of the books that I needed to buy. Cracking the coding interview, elements of programming interview from like the Python, that white book. I completely mastered that shit. Solving problems all day long. Now keep in mind, next to Google, I got a few other companies, a few other interviews as well. I spent so long obsessing about this shit, making it my one true obsession, being so reliant on that outcome of congratulations, Neil, this is your offer, here's your Google fucking job. I was so obsessed about this shit. The biggest realizations that I got out of this, and interviewing 50 other people as well. I'm very sure other people can say this shit as well, but I've literally interviewed 50 people just for data structures and algorithms. You need to do 2 things. Number one, make sure your communication skills are on point. You need to be able to communicate ideas effectively and thoroughly. Nothing sucks more than when I was a fucking nerd that couldn't communicate for shit. That motherfucker who just typed up a fucking solution without actually explaining to you what he did. Make sure you aren't like that, okay? It's okay, that's communication skills. You need to make sure that you are nice, you are thorough, you are explanatory, and you make sure your ideas are communicated properly, even your thinking process. If you're gonna take 30 seconds of your time to think, you better relay it to your interviewer. You better tell your interviewer, like, yo, I'm gonna take 30 seconds to think. Please give me 30 seconds. Do you know how many points you'll cross off the board if you do that? They're gonna think things like, this person actually gives a fuck about me. He cares about me. He doesn't wanna leave me in silence during the interview. So I'm gonna give him all the points in the fucking, on the scoreboard. for behavior. This ties into the next point. Make sure your algorithms and data structure skills are on fucking point. You need to make sure your principles are strict. Now, just because communication scores higher than DSA skills, like data structure and algorithm, doesn't mean the second point is any less. You need to have both tight as fuck. While we are on the topic about big tech, are you actually sure you want to go through that shit? Take a look at teamblind.com. Do you know how much toxicity happens in those communities? Now, listen, I got a job at Amazon. I failed that Google interview, by the way. Check out this video if you want to hear about the Google story. But basically, a lot of the developers, I'm not talking about all of the developers, but many developers are in the game just for money. They do not have they basically fake their way. Like, I know this is a very big generalization and stuff, I understand, but if you read about the stories that go on within company cultures, you'll realize that, do you want to be surrounded by developers that basically work 1 or 2 hours a day and get paid a shit ton of money, that only care about promotions and bureaucracy and politics? Think about that shit for a while before you apply to these big companies. All right, let's get back to coding interviews. The biggest lessons I learned was making sure that you are good at communication. I really need to drill this shit into your mind. Work on your communication, okay? Secondly, now practicing lead code is going to give you pattern recognition for sure. You definitely need that shit. So if you're grinding lead code, okay, but make sure you practice like interviewing via pram, like doing mock interviews. Do a shit ton of mock interviews if you can. But on top of that, make sure your fundamentals are right. There's so many resources available on the internet. Just make sure you apply the fundamental principles in your thought process. Understand the difference between memorizing a solution and using your intuition to solve these problems. Those developers that you see that are fucking geniuses, like prodigies that can solve problems like this, they do not rely on memorization to solve those problems. No, they rely on their intuition. They've solved many different types of problems and they're used to solving problems within 60 minutes. The unfortunate truth about these technical interviews is that you are not going to use these lead code problems in your day-to-day life. It's basically like an entrance exam. Once you pass this and you get the job, you are basically good to go. But remember the question I asked earlier in this video. I want you to right now go to teamblind.com and make an account. Figure out a way to get an email with a different domain at the end. Not something regular like Gmail or Hotmail or Yahoo if you still use that shit. Make an account, go to the company you want to apply for and look at the way they talk about their teams. If you like that shit, please go ahead and apply. But if you're like me and you want a really decent environment with like robust problem solving capabilities, and making sure you're using your powers that you've been given by the universe for good as a software developer. Because you and I know, like, the lifeblood of society today is software. Do you know anyone who hasn't used an app in the last few days? I mean, sure, you can make the same argument for electricity or like wood or like construction, but at the end of the day, what's currently very booming is technology and specifically software. For sure, hardware too, but let's focus on software here for a minute. The universe has gifted you a power to use for good. I mean, you could go and work for these big companies that sap energy from young boys and young girls, or you could use your powers for good. And as cringy as it sounds, with great power comes great responsibility, okay? Listen, I just want you to go away from this video knowing 2 things. 1, practice your communication skills via pramp.com. And number 2, practice DS and algorithms fundamentals by efficiently grinding lead code. Like actually study use lectures to study these topics. Click the link below to join our Discord community and join our clan of developers that want to become charming, irresistible, irreplaceable top 1% engineers. Okay? And before you know it, you'll be dreaming in algorithms and data structures. You will be the king of these subjects. All right? Life is a gift given by the gods to make a proper use of it. Peace out. Love you. Take care. Bye.